What an absolute bloody shambles. That's not the verdict of a political opponent, it's the stinging assessment of a Labour MP who supports Keir Starmer's latest so-called compromise on disability benefit cuts. Yes, supports. If that's what his own side is saying, imagine how the rest of the country sees it. I'm Mike Sevier of Vox Political. Buy me a coffee. Or donate more than £20 and I'll give you a free book. More on that later. Subscribe to the video mailing list, like and comment on this video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But watch this first to the end, because otherwise you won't have all the facts you need. Let me explain. After days of backbench rebellion and public outcry, the Prime Minister made a partial climb down, announcing that new, stricter criteria for disability benefit eligibility would apply only to future claimants. But if the move was meant to calm the storm, it failed. Let's listen to a few Labour politicians talking about this, shall we? First, here's Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall squirming her way through the changes she's had to announce, possibly because she knows they're not good enough.
Well, the changes that we are introducing will make sure existing claimants are unaffected, but we also all agree that there do need to be changes in future to make sure that people who can work do so, we protect those who can't, but that we make the welfare state sustainable for the future. These are really, really important decisions. We have listened to people, we have engaged with them. I think we are in a good place now, alongside the huge investments we are putting in to create the jobs that people need in every part of the country, to get waiting lists down in the NHS, to ensure stronger rights at work, but also to make sure there's employment support for those who can work and protections for those who can't.
Now here's Nadia Watme, rightly pointing out that there's not even enough detail in what the government has announced to make it reasonable for Labour rebels to change their mind.
The process points alone are reason for MPs to vote against this. All the points that were set out in the reasoned amendment that my colleagues tabled still stand. There has been no formal consultation with disabled people. There has been no government impact assessment, no OBR analysis of likely impact of the reforms that they will have on employment. And actually, we have even less information now to vote on than we did previously, now that the government has made really fundamental changes to the bill, which will either be drafted over the weekend and presented to us on Monday with less than 24 hours before the vote, or will be expected to vote on the basis of verbal promises made by the Minister at the dispatch box. That's not something we can justify.
And here's one of the rebel leaders, Mascll.
This doesn't represent the values of the Labour Party, but it isn't the vote in Parliament the Prime Minister needs to worry about. It's the vote in the country, because we all know disabled and sick people who are really struggling right now, and certainly will after this legislation is put through. We need to build trust with the electorate, but to turn our back on disabled people, that would be catastrophic.
Put it all together and this is what you've got. Starmer now finds himself in a much bigger crisis, not just over his attitude to disabled people, but over what kind of leader he is and whether anyone still knows what he stands for. This wasn't just a misjudged policy. It has become a political moment that has exposed the vacuum at the heart of Starmer's premiership. Starmer himself likely hoped the benefits row would be a flashpoint he could contain. A manageable dispute, quickly dealt with. Instead, it has snowballed into something much more dangerous, a symbol of his entire approach to power. The backlash hasn't been limited to Labour's left flank. MPs from across the party are furious, not just about the contents of the bill, but about the way it was handled. The feeling is that Downing Street imposed the policy from above, ignored warnings, and then panicked when a rebellion looked likely. Starmer blinked. And in doing so, he confirmed what many MPs were starting to fear, that when faced with pressure, his instinct is not to lead, but to retreat. One MP described the whole process as tinkering with a broken bill. Another accused Starmer's inner circle of treating elected MPs as an inconvenience, people to manage, not to listen to. There is now open speculation about whether the government's fiscal strategy, led by Chancellor Rachel Reeves, is going to require fresh spending cuts every 6 months just to stay on target. And there is whispered talk, even among allies, that Starmer might soon need a new Chancellor if he wants to survive politically. This is how quickly a Prime Minister's authority can unravel when people stop believing he knows what he's doing. Starmer came into office promising responsibility and competence. But over the past year, he has veered between caution and opportunism, always looking for a political angle but rarely offering moral clarity. His U-turn on benefits has done something deeper than just disappoint progressives. It has shattered trust, not just on policy, but on leadership. The real damage is this. In trying to shore up his position on one policy area, he has managed to raise existential doubts about his entire leadership. Is he really committed to protecting vulnerable people? Does he believe in anything beyond fiscal targets and polling numbers? And if even his own supporters are calling him weak, what does that say to the public? This week he did an Observer interview meant to mark the anniversary of his premiership, and it only made things worse. Starmer now says he regrets his remarks about immigration last year, calling them a mistake. He said we were an island of strangers, if you remember. But if they were a mistake, what does he really believe now? Who is he trying to be now? Far from clarifying his values, Starmer's latest interventions have left even his loyalists feeling abandoned. One senior government figure reportedly said they were too angry even to speak about this. That in itself speaks volumes. The battle over disability benefit reform was always going to be a test of Starmer's politics, but it has turned into something more profound, a test of his leadership, and one he is failing in real time. It's not just that his compromise has left disabled people rightly fearful of what comes next. It is that in the act of trying to manage this one issue, he has laid bare a bigger truth. He doesn't appear to have the courage to lead with principle or the confidence to stand for something real. That is why this moment matters. If a Prime Minister can't face down a crisis over basic social protections without alienating half his party and enraging the other half, what happens when the real tests of leadership come? Keir Starmer may have hoped this was the end of the row, but now it looks more like the beginning of a reckoning. I've been Mike Sivier, and it's time to buy me that coffee now. Donate more than £20 and I'll give you a free copy of my reissued first book, Strong Words and Hard Times. Subscribe to the video mailing list, like and comment on this post, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you do all that, you'll be helping keep this channel alive, and then you'll be able to see me in the next one.